Imagine attending a luxurious party where everyone is smiling until one cruel moment freezes the entire night. A group of entitled guests shoved a woman into a pool just to teach her a lesson. But seconds later, the entire crowd went silent. Why? Because they realized the woman they humiliated was the billionaire host's wife. What happened next? Destroyed reputations, ended a massive business deal, and exposed the true character of everyone at that party. This is the shocking story of the night. Arrogance turned into regret. The night was supposed to be unforgettable, but no one expected that moment to be the reason why. The engagement party of Charles and Isabel was the type of event where everyone wanted to be seen. Laughter echoed across the large patio. People bragged about business deals, and clusters of guests gathered to show off their connections. The atmosphere buzzed with the kind of energy that always floats in the air when wealthy people believe the world bends for them. In the middle of this glittering chaos walked Maya, a calm presence among the crowd. She wasn't loud. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She simply moved with quiet confidence, heading toward the man she loved. Her husband, Ethan, stood across the patio, speaking with the party hosts about an upcoming business venture. Maya wanted to join him, thinking it would be a simple walk through a crowd. But the group near the pool noticed her. 3 guests, troublemakers with privileged attitudes, leaned toward each other and whispered with smirks that did not go unnoticed. They didn't recognize Maya. They didn't care to. In their minds, the party belonged to them, and they could decide who fit and who didn't get. One of them scoffed loudly. Who let her in? Another chuckled. Probably here to take photos or sneak around. The third one smirked. Watch this. Before anyone nearby could react, he stepped behind Maya just as she was passing the pool's edge. With a sudden shove, sharp, deliberate, cruel, he pushed her forward. Maya's eyes widened in shock. Her arms shot out instinctively, trying to find balance, trying to save herself. But it was too late. Her body hit the water with a loud splash, and, in an instant, the entire party changed. Conversations halted. Music faded into the background. Guests rushed toward the pool, staring with widened eyes as Maya resurfaced. Gasping, she blinked rapidly, trying to process what had just happened. Her expression torn between confusion and humiliation. The 3 who shoved her laughed at first, but the sound quickly died when they noticed the horrified faces around them. Then, someone shouted the words that silenced the night completely. Do you idiots know who she is? That's Ethan Cole's wife. And just like that, everything stopped. The party wasn't a celebration anymore. It was a disaster, one that no one could ever forget. If the 3 guests had even remotely known who Maya was, the shove would never have happened. Because her husband, Ethan Cole, wasn't just another wealthy man casually attending an event. He was one of the most influential billionaires in the country. Strategist whose investments could revive dying corporations or quietly end empires. People in powerful circles followed his words like scripture. CEOs waited months just to get 5 minutes of his time. Entire industries shifted based on his decisions. But Ethan was also known for something else. He always protected Maya. She preferred living quietly, away from spotlights and headlines. She never flaunted wealth or demanded special treatment. She liked staying unseen, observing people for who they truly were, not for the version they presented when they recognized power. That privacy, however, meant that not everyone automatically recognized her at events, including the trio who pushed her. Ethan had been in deep conversation with the hosts, Charles and Isabel, discussing an upcoming partnership worth hundreds of millions. The hosts had spent months preparing to win Ethan's support. They were laughing, chatting, and carefully pitching their vision. When Ethan heard the splash behind him, he didn't react immediately. Parties like this had people jumping into pools for fun all the time. But then he noticed something wrong. The sudden silence. The frozen expressions. The way every head snapped toward the water, and then he saw her. Maya, struggling to regain balance. Shocked, humiliated, slowly rising from the pool as the guilty guests exchanged panicked looks. Ethan's entire expression changed. All hints of friendliness vanished. His posture stiffened, and a cold, dangerous calm replaced the warmth he'd shown moments earlier. Without hesitation, he moved toward Maya, pushing past stunned guests who parted for him like curtains. He reached her, placing a steady hand on her arm. Maya, what happened? He asked quietly. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The guilt on the trio's faces said everything. Charles and Isabel rushed forward, frantic, trying to help, apologizing over and over. But Ethan's focus was on Maya alone. He helped her regain her breath, his jaw tight, with controlled rage. Then he turned around and scanned the crowd. Everyone felt Ethan's shift in the air, the sense that something far bigger than a party mishap had just occurred. Asterisk people whispered the name Ethan Cole under their breath, reminding the clueless trio exactly who they had just crossed. Asterisk, and for the first time that night, Asterisk's fear replaced arrogance. The moment Ethan turned his gaze toward the crowd, the three guests who pushed Maya felt a chill ripple down their spines. Their earlier arrogance evaporated instantly. They had gone from smug troublemakers to terrified offenders in seconds. The patio that once felt like their playground now felt like a courtroom, and every guest was a witness. Asterisk, one of the trio. The ringleader tried to laugh it off. It was just a joke, he said, rubbing his hands nervously. We didn't mean any harm. Asterisk, another quickly added. She slipped. We didn't touch her. The edge was wet. Anyone could have fallen. Asterisk, the third, the most panicked of them, shook his head repeatedly. I didn't even see her. I swear, I wasn't part of anything. Asterisk, but the crowd wasn't buying it. Not tonight. Not after what everyone had clearly seen. Asterisk, a server, who had been walking by at the moment of the shove, stepped forward timidly. Sir, I saw them push her. All three of them were laughing right before it happened. Asterisk, another bystander added. They were making comments about her. Everyone heard them. Asterisk, even a child, who had been sitting near the pool, pointed at the trio with wide eyes. They pushed the lady. They said something mean, and then pushed her. The guilty guests felt the walls closing in. Ethan didn't shout. He didn't rush toward them. Ispanil, he turned to the host of Shars, in Isabella's expression unreadable but terrifyingly calm. Asterisk, is this the behavior you tolerate at your events? He asked quietly. That question hit them like a hammer. Shars stuttered. Ethan, please. We're so sorry. We'll take care of this. They didn't know who she was. Ethan's cold chuckle made everyone's stomach drop. So, if she hadn't been my wife? He said, you believe their behavior would have been acceptable? Asterisk, the hosts froze. The guests froze. Even the air seemed to freeze. Asterisk, the three culprits now. White as chalk looked desperately around for anyone to defend them, but no one stepped forward, not a single person. Everyone had seen the shove. Everyone had heard the cruel comments. And everyone knew Ethan was right. Asterisk, whatever excuse the trio thought they could offer had been shattered by their own actions. Asterisk, meanwhile, Maya, having regained her composure, stepped slightly forward not to lash out, but to ensure the truth was heard clearly. Asterisk, I don't want them punished because of who my husband is, she said firmly. I want them held accountable because what they did was wrong. Her words landed heavier than any accusation. The guests who once ignored her now watched in silence, suddenly realizing the magnitude of what had happened. Tonight wasn't just a party anymore, it was a reckoning. Ethan didn't need to yell. He didn't need to make threats. His silence alone was enough to send fear spreading through the entire patio like wildfire. Everyone knew Ethan Cole was a man who chose his words carefully, and when he chose to remain quiet, it meant the consequences would be far louder than anything he could say. Asterisk, he finally turned to Charles and Isabel, who stood frozen beside him. Their entire business reputation built over decades was hanging by a thread, all because they couldn't maintain order at their own party. Asterisk, I can't move forward with business partners, Ethan said slowly, who hosts events where my wife is assaulted without anyone stepping in to stop it. Asterisk, Charles's face drained of all color. This deal wasn't just important, it was everything. Their family's company was struggling, and Ethan's investment would have secured their future for years. Asterisk, Ethan, please, Charles begged, voice trembling. We had no idea this would happen. We'll make it right. Don't end the deal over a few stupid guests. Asterisk, but Maya stepped forward before Ethan could respond. She spoke calmly, her voice steady despite the humiliation she had endured. Asterisk, this isn't about a business deal, she said. It's about the fact that people saw what happened and did nothing until it was too late. Her words pierced the room. Several guests looked down, ashamed. They had seen it. They had heard the cruel comments. But none of them believed it was serious enough to intervene until they realized who she was. Asterisk. Ethan turned his attention to the guilty trio. Asterisk, you will leave, he said quietly, but firmly. Right now, and understand your behavior tonight will not stay in this backyard. By every boardroom, every executive gathering, every investor meeting will know what you did. Asterisk, the three offenders crumbled. One begged desperately for forgiveness. Another attempted to blame alcohol, claiming he wasn't thinking clearly. The third, still clinging to denial, insisted it was an accident, despite half the party witnessing the shove. It didn't matter. Security arrived, and with the entire crowd watching, escorted them out of the mansion. None of the guests felt sorry for them. If anything, People silently agreed that it was long overdue. Their behavior had been tolerated for years, simply because of their last names and money. Asterisk now. All their privilege couldn't save them. Asterisk Ethan then turned to Maya, gently touching her arm. Do you want to go home? But she shook her head. No, Maya said softly. I won't let humiliation chase me out of this place. I'm not going to hide. Asterisk, and with that, she stood tall, strong, composed, and unbroken, showing everyone that the woman they tried to embarrass had more dignity in a single moment than they had in their entire lives. Asterisk, some guests walked up to her, genuinely apologizing not because of Ethan, but because they finally understood how wrong they had been. Asterisk, for the first time that night, humanity replaced arrogance. When Maya and Ethan finally decided to leave the party, the atmosphere behind them felt nothing like the celebration it had started as. Instead of music and chatter, there was only tense silence and scattered whispers. The hosts stood helplessly at the patio entrance, still trying to process how quickly their perfect evening had crumbled. Guests lingered in uneasy clusters, replaying the events in their minds, realizing how one cruel act had changed the future of so many people in that backyard. Asterisked as Maya and Ethan walked toward their car. Ethan kept glancing at her, scanning her face for any sign of distress. But Maya carried herself with the quiet strength she was known for. She didn't lash out, she didn't cry or shout. She simply breathed deeply, as if releasing every ounce of humiliation into the night air. Asterisk, when the car doors closed and the outside world faded, Ethan finally spoke. I'm sorry this happened to you, he said softly. Maya shook her head. You didn't do anything wrong. Other people did. Asterisk, Ethan squeezed her hand gently. They won't get away with it. Asterisk, they already got what they deserved, she replied. Everything else will take care of itself. And she was right. Because by the next morning, the entire town was buzzing with the story. Not because Maya was the victim, but because of how she handled the situation with grace that made the aggressors look even smaller than their actions. People admired her strength, her composure, and the way she stood tall after being publicly humiliated. Asterisk word also spread quickly about the canceled business deal. Investors who were following the project immediately grew concerned. Charles and Isabel's family company began scrambling to repair the damage. But it was too late. The ripple effect had already started. Eason's withdrawal sent shockwaves through the business community, and everyone knew the reason why. Asterisk says, for the three guests who pushed Maya, their reputation collapsed almost overnight. Their social ties evaporated. Invitations to high-end events disappeared. Business connections quietly stepped back. No one wanted to be associated with people who had humiliated a woman for their own entertainment and then lied about it. Asterisk, meanwhile, Maya became a symbol of dignity. People who had barely noticed her before now spoke about her with respect. Her story inspired conversations about behavior, privilege, and basic human decency. Asterisk, and the biggest lesson everyone learned that night. True character shows when you think no one important is watching. Those three guests thought Maya was nobody. They were wrong, and the consequences of that mistake would follow them for years. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another powerful story like this. Your support helps us bring more real, emotional, and inspiring content straight to you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.